Hey guys, Technomentary with a video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to talk about the iPad 6th generation in mid 2021 and if it's still worth it or not for this iPad and what you can expect out of it, what is it good for, and how long this device is going to be good for. All of that and much more we're going to discuss in this video. But before we go ahead and get started, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in the market for one of the iPads at a discounted price, make sure you guys check out the link in the description section. So let's talk about the iPad 6th generation in 2021. Well, a couple things. The iPad 6th generation in this model is considered generally the cheaper version of it, more mainstream compared to your Air or the Pro lineup, which tends to be more pricier in terms if you're looking purely on the pricing perspective. But a couple things about this iPad. It was released in March of 2018, so it's been over 3 years, 3.5 close to it since this device was released. The iPads are now on the 8th generation, so this is 2 generations behind. You can actually get this in couple finishes. As you can see here, we have the silver edition of it, but you can also get it in gold and space gray edition. Similarly, you can get this Wi-Fi model or a cellular model. The cellular one will support SIM card where you can get cellular data. Wi-Fi, of course, would just be on Wi-Fi for your data. You can also get in 2 configurations. There's a 32 gig model and the 128 gig model. So if you talk about specs, it doesn't seem like a lot compared to some of the other things like the newer iPhone lineup, which go up to 512 gigs. So your maxed out storage you're getting is 128 gig. The iPad itself is sort of lighter in terms of some of the bulkier previous generation of models. As you can see, it's more slimmed down here, and this where it gets to about 1 pound or so. So lightweight, not too bad, we would say. There is the mini edition ones, which are even smaller and lighter, but we think this is a good size in terms of the actual iPad. Couple things to note about the iPad 6th generation in terms of feature. Of course, you have the Touch ID here. You have stereo grade speakers, as you can see down here, that's lined up. You also have the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. So if you still have those headphones, where in the past Apple removed those headphones starting with the iPhone 7 lineup, and not sure why, but you know, the headphone jack is still there. It also supports things like Siri, Apple Pay, of course, FaceTime and iMessage, which you can have it on either Wi-Fi or the cellular model. And lastly, it supports Apple Pencil, which is probably the biggest thing that Apple has done from the previous generation. Supports the first generation of the Apple Pencil, or unfortunately not the 2nd generation. So that's something to keep in mind. This is really important, especially for someone that's looking to use it specifically for drawing or just being able to do artwork and things like that. So something you want to take a note of. As you can see here, the display here we have, it's a 9.7 LED backlit multi-touch display with IPS technology. It also has fingerprint resistant, so coating on it, so you won't have much fingerprint to it, even on it because you're browsing a lot. It also has a retina display, so this display itself is actually a retina made display. It has a 2048 by 1536 pixel at 264 ppi, so that's the max brightness you can expect from this device. Other thing to note of the actual hardware of this phone is that of this iPad is actually that it has an A10 Fusion chip with the 64-bit architecture with the embedded M10 coprocessor, and it has 2 gigs of RAM. Really important to note of those features because that's what the software is going to be defined to. It does have both front and back camera here. As you can see here on the back camera, expect it to be having things like live photos, autofocus. It has 8 megapixel rear camera, as we just mentioned, so that allows you to take HDR photos and also videos. When it comes to video, you're able to record in 1080 pixel HDR in slow motion at 240 or so when you go into the slow-mo, and things like video stabilization, body and face detection, and if you're coming for zoom, you can actually zoom up to 3 times on this iPad. Other things to note is that it also has video geo and photo geo tagging as well, so it can tag wherever you take that photo or the video that you're taking a look at. Also, in terms of video, it also does have a front-facing camera, or the FaceTime HD camera. That's a 1.2 pixel camera for your front-facing camera, and of course for FaceTime as well. You can take live photos, and also has Retina flash with the 720 pixel HD video recording for the front side as well. Well, let's talk about the battery a little bit. So what kind of battery can you expect, or what kind of battery life you can expect? Well, the iPad 6th generation has a 32 watt rechargeable lithium battery, which means that it will give you about 10 hours of surfing the web on Wi-Fi, watching videos, listening to music, and much more. And you get about 9 hours of video if you're using it on cellular data. Cellular usually tends to take a little bit more power, but that's what you're going to be expecting. So really good battery, 10 hours or so for iPad on a full single charge. We would say it's pretty good for what it's meant to do. And now let's talk about the software on this phone. As you can see that we're able to download most of the popular apps on this iPad. And the iPad 6th generation does get the latest iOS. We're on iPad iOS 14, and it will get iOS 15 as well, which is expected to come out later this year. Other thing to note about the 6th generation iPad is that it's going to be supported for another good 2 to 3 years, because it's only been out 3 years. We expect at least at the minimum 2 years, since Apple generally supports its device for a good 5 years or so. So that's going to be keynote here. In terms of things for what this iPad is going to be good for, well, a couple things. It's going to be good for social media. So if you're looking for an iPad specifically to use social media, it will get the job done. You're able to use most of the popular social media app because it is running on iOS 14. All of your popular social media app will work. Video streaming as well. It's a good device to watch movies and shows, whether you're using it for Netflix, Disney Plus, or just simply YouTube or Hulu. All of that and much more will be working. And because it has a 9.7 display, it is really good for all of that and much more. And in terms of video editing, because this is a bit of an older device and it does support the Apple Pencil, it still gets the job done when you're looking to do video editing, even for artwork and such. So if you're a person that likes to do artwork on their devices, you're going to be able to do that as well. And in terms of gaming, what kind of gaming can you do on this device? Well, when it comes to gaming, there's a couple things to note. Is that this iPad does well when you're playing games that are less heavy on graphics. So what do we mean by less heavy on graphics? Well, those are games that you don't play on the console, that are meant to be played on iPads and iPhones. When you start to go into games that are meant to be played on the console, like your PUBG, Call of Duty, things like that, it starts to be a little bit slower, and because it takes a lot more power for it, and you're not going to be expected to do well in terms of performance. But it still is able to support those games, but it's starting to slow down a little bit. Games like Roblox and such will work perfectly fine on this iPad, so nothing to worry about that. And if you're looking for a device specifically for your online classes or school, this does really well in terms of being able to edit, document, get on Zoom or any sort of video platform that you use for your online classes. And the other aspect about is productivity. What kind of productivity can you get out of this? Well, you can do pretty much multitasking. You're able to do a lot of that work that you want to get done on it. So overall, this iPad still holds up really well when it comes to from basic things like browsing to your social media, productivity, video streaming, and editing and artwork, and because it supports your Pencil as well. And the price point of this device in mid 2021, well, the price point you can look at, if you're looking for this iPad, you probably are going to be getting a used or refurbished one, which starts around $200 to $250. But the thing about this iPad in 2021 is that the 8th generation iPad is actually around, if you're buying it new, around $300. So is it really worth it to get the iPad 6th generation compared to the 8th generation? We usually say that if you have that extra bit of money, which is another maybe $50 to $70, $80, go with the iPad 8th generation. But if you're really tight on budget and don't have too much to spend, or able to find a cheaper iPad 6th generation at a discounted price, we probably say it's still worth it. We'll get you by another 2 to 3 years, no doubt. But the iPad 8th generation, of course, will be another 4 to 5 years. So if you're thinking about using an iPad for a longer time period, probably spend that little bit of money so you can have a iPad that's supported longer and a little bit faster if you're looking for a device with more updated hardware and of course lasting you a lot more. So there you guys have it for our review of the iPad 6th generation. Certainly it's supported on the latest iOS. It has a decent camera, decent performance as well, but nothing compared to something like the iPad 8th generation. We can pay a little bit extra for all of that and much more. So hopefully this video was helpful. If this video is helpful, we want to hear from you guys. If you guys ever use this iPad or have any iPad or upgraded from one to another, leave a comment in the comment section with your experience of the iPad of the 6th generation in 2021. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.